fun? It was. The war ended in 1918. Well, I bet that's why the Historical Society people asked me to come to speak to you today. As you can see, service to our country was very important to my husband and myself, so much so that we cast it in stone. I served in the U.S. Army Nurse Corps from June of 1918 until January of 1919. And I will say it was an experience I have not forgotten. I want to share with you a few pictures. Care of the wounded began on the battlefield with the stretcher bearers going out and collecting the wounded and transporting them to regimental aid stations. There they were given basic first aid and loaded into ambulances to be taken a couple miles back from the front lines to field hospitals. The field hospitals were a series of tents and mobile units that were moved to active battle areas as needed. At the field hospitals, the patient was assessed. If they were able to walk and their wounds were not emergent, they were given cigarettes and coffee, some soup, sometimes liquor, and they were asked to wait until they could be transported on the rail lines about 20 to 30 miles back to the base hospitals. There at the base hospitals, they would receive their surgeries, their treatment and rehabs. Average time from a battlefield wound to transport to the field hospital was about 5 hours. And transport from the field hospital to the base hospital was about another 5 hours. And that was because transportation of wounded troops on the rail lines were given the lowest priority. So the field hospitals kept the patients who would not make that 5-hour journey. Those were the patients with open chest wounds, open skull wounds, the ones who had been burned or gassed or were bleeding out from multiple gunshot or shrapnel wounds, or those already in shock. The shock patients were transported to our shock ward. There they were given stimulants, blood if we had it, fluids. They were warmed and we hoped that they revived. Those needing emergency surgery were taken by our orderlies. They were washed, deloused, and prepared for surgery. Depending on the battle, we might have hundreds or thousands of troops waiting on surgeries. The nurses and the doctors worked day and night until the soldiers had received their surgeries. If treatment was at the time of surgery, the wound was flushed with an antiseptic solution. The surgeons put in rubber tubes. Through those tubes, the nurses every 3 hours flushed the wounds. And the next day, the surgeons would come, remove the dressings, remove the tubes, flush the wound, put new tubes in, and we'd continue the process of every 3-hour flushes and daily wound care. The wounds healed very slowly, and this was very painful for our soldiers. But it was our best treatment at the time to save a limb or save a life. Not only did we treat the battle wounds, but we also cared for the ailments just caused from poor nutrition, lack of hygiene, stress, and just the filth of living in the battlefield. Communicable diseases spread like crazy amongst the troops, and when the Spanish flu hit and the resulting pneumonia, we lost over 24,000 American troops to the flu.
It was also 1918, wasn't it?
We did our best.